Hello, my Red Tribe, and welcome to another episode of Dr. Red Diaries. So, in today's episode, we have someone special, a special guest that will be talking to us about his journey and how he has been able to live with a medical condition that's sickle cell. So, without further stories, let us dive right into it. Join me to welcome my very special guest, Mr. Ike. Hello, it's nice to have you join us on today's episode.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I think your today's topic is something that is very important and interesting for a lot of people, and that's the reason why we are having it today. So just walk us through your journey. First of all, when you were diagnosed with sickle cell, if you can remember, and also how that has really affected you, how it affected you from that point in time till now.
Okay, so I don't actually recall when I was diagnosed with sickle cell because for as long as I can tell, I've always had it. So I
Yeah.
can't say this particular moment I discovered that sickle cell. So I just know that as a child, I visited the hospital constantly, but it took me time to actually understand what was wrong with me. I just think I had to take medications regularly to avoid going to the hospital. So yes, but then I just usually had my mom taking care of me. Like and whenever I had crisis and everything, I just know that I just wound up in the hospital taking drips and injections. So it's basically just been who I've been or how I've been right from day one.
Yeah. So, what has been some of your most challenging moments? Like, if you can think out, if you can think, you can remember, or defining a moment that truly was the word, like say, tested your strengths, living with this health condition.
Okay, so growing up as a child, I've said I was stubborn in a way. So one of the things I struggled with was watching my friends play or doing activities I could not also engage
Yeah.
in. So that was difficult for me. And like I said, I'll still go ahead and do it and then still fall sick. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so let's also talk about, I think one of the things I really talk about is your own experience dealing with the Nigerian healthcare system. I've had lots of patients or even people that have shared their story living with the sickle cell, and but also had to deal or navigate Nigerian healthcare system, visiting the hospital, being admitted in the hospital, the challenges and the issues that they faced. Or maybe your own case might be different. You never had any challenge. So what has been your own experience dealing with the Nigerian healthcare system?
Okay, so for the earlier part or the earliest part of my childhood, I've always had like a single hospital. I always go to a clinic. So each time I got there, they already knew what was wrong because I was like a regular customer.
Yeah.
So when I got there, it wasn't actually difficult at first, but later on, when I don't remember whether the clinic closed down or the doctor got transferred, then that started becoming challenging because when I visited other hospitals, at first it was difficult to get a doctor that actually understood what I was going through at the time. And there are sometimes when I go to hospitals and the doctors don't even know what to do, the nurses don't know what to do, and they have to wait for like a specialist to come in and then advise on what medications to give and injections I have to take and all of that. And even in recent times, I think it was less than 5 years ago, there was a time I had a very, very like crazy crisis where I went to, I think, at least 2 or 3 different hospitals before I finally landed one where I was given the right attention. So yes, it can be difficult sometimes because not all doctors are quite conversant with the intricacies of dealing with sickle cell.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes,
So
exactly.
that's basically how it has been so far. And then another challenge I face with the healthcare system is HMO. A lot of HMOs don't even give you my routine medications, even when they say like medications are supposed to be free with HMO and all of that. But once I tender my prescription and all of that, it's just like I have to pay for it out of pocket.
But okay, so the truth is, when it comes to some medical conditions and health insurance, it's still one aspect that I think we're really trying to figure out in the healthcare system. Why? Because of several factors. I think about one issue is always the fact of, since it's long term, is it sustainable for them business wise? I'm just speaking in general. So most times I feel like we forget the human part or the empathy part or the healthcare part, especially with HMO. And then we focus on, is it sustainable? And there are some things that this is not sustainable, if it's sustainable or not. Is it something that is functional or we are willing to cover? But I think it's something that should actually be worked on, especially with routine medications for that. I think it's something that actually can be worked on.
Yes, so I can understand that it might not be sustainable in the long term
Yeah.
because of some of the medications that I have
Yes.
to take. But there are some pretty basic medications like folic acid and Bico that shouldn't actually be a
Yes.
challenge.
I
But even
agree.
for as little as folic acid and Bico, I still have to pay for it out of pocket.
Yes, I agree. I agree completely. And the truth is that can really be a tool, especially if someone that is advocating, for example, for health insurance. You can imagine advocating for health insurance and someone is telling you they don't want to use health insurance for this reason. Even though health insurance will not cover managed care, but I think there are some, like you said, some routine basic medications that it should actually be able to cover. But do you have can you share like a hospital experience or episode that you had that you can really remember?
I have quite a few that I can remember. Yeah, okay, one of which was when I had a crisis in my leg. It started like the night before. So I was thinking it was one of those because sometimes there's some crises that just come and maybe overnight it just goes away if I take a
Yes.
lot of water with my medications. But there was this particular one I had then, my knees. So that was where I was feeling the pain. I slept in the night hoping that okay, maybe when I wake up in the morning after taking painkillers and all that, it will disappear.
Yeah.
But actually when I got in the morning it was worse. And I had to I literally had to crawl to my dad's room to an escalation, like, oh, dad, we have to go to the hospital and everything. And I can tell you for a fact that that was the last thing I remembered. Last waking him up from sleep that we have to go to the hospital. And next thing I remember, I was in the
In the
hospital being
hospital. Wow.
resuscitated actually. So that was one that actually really stood out for me because it was quite a scare for my family and everyone. Can you imagine, like passing out, maybe talking to your dad, and then you wake up in the hospital and like the whole extended family is dead, wondering what is going on.
Yes.
That was one that stood out for me. And another one was like the one I just mentioned now, where I had to go to like two different hospitals before actually landing one where I could get the actual care I needed. And at the end of the day, I think the crisis was quite serious at that point in time where I had to take like 2 bags of blood transfusion and all of that.
Yes.
So yeah, that's like two occasions where I knew that okay, yes, these ones are going to stay with me forever because it really scarred me there.
Yeah, so talking about that, how has because I know I've had a lot of people, not just the patients now, but people with the medical condition, but how the medical condition has affected like their relatives, their loved ones, their family friends. So how has that really affected? Do you think it has affected, or do you think it has really affected maybe your relationship with your friends, or even from your own point of view? How do you think it has affected maybe your family members, your relatives, your loved ones, even your friends?
Okay.
Do you think they treat you differently?
Yes, I definitely do. I think some of them treat me differently, especially some of my friends. So I think in secondary school there was an occasion where because I went to a military secondary school.
Okay.
So there are some of my friends that maybe whenever they are punishing the whole class, now military and all that. Once the soldier gets to my turn, like they just ask, leave him alone, leave him alone, don't touch him. So that's another case like that. Then when it comes to family, I believe my family has been very supportive. I love them so much, and I believe the feeling is mutual. So I've never had any challenge with my family and people that are close to me. Once they notice that I'm having a crisis coming on, they already know the things to do, like get warm water, get towel, get rub, all of that. And when it becomes too serious where they can't manage it anymore, immediately we go to the hospital and all. So generally, I think God just blessed me with like a really good family and people that understand me. I think it might also be because growing up, they detected it very early. Because like I said, I for like the best part of my, I don't remember ever thinking I'm ill or anything. So from day one, I think they already knew from birth or something. I'm not sure. But they already understood the kind of person I was and all. So it was easy for me, I would say, they'll even be the ones to remind me to take my medications most of the time because
You
even till
forget.
today,
I
even till
guess.
today, they still remind me to take my medications. Even whenever I
Yes.
talk to family members sometimes, person they ask is, oh, shorty gel, have you used your medications? All of that. So,
Yeah. No,
so
I think you're right. I think it's important to really have support because it can really be not the fact that it can really be mentally challenging and draining, not just for you alone, for example, but for relatives, family members, because having to take care of you, for example. And there are very few people that really get that support because you will need someone to not necessarily be with you 24/7 per se, but to at least provide some sort of support do you get and care for that. But I think that brings me to the next question I wanted to ask is regarding let me ask it like this. Would I say how expensive? Let me go with that. How expensive is it? Because I think it's one of the most common challenge that I have as a medical doctor, one of the most common challenge that I get to deal with uh patients or people that are sickle cell, that have sickle cell, and even their relatives, because that the cost of the medication when they have crisis, for example, when they're on admission, the number of tests they are going to do. Sometimes I've had people that they've been on admission for a long time because the crisis is just never ending, and sometimes it can really start affecting other organs, other parts of the body. So that's why I asked how expensive. That's the best way for me to So how expensive, do you have an idea of how expensive it is?
So it can be really challenging sometimes, especially when I spend like extensive time in the hospital because I've gone as long as 2 weeks in the hospital sometimes. And I think the part of it that is always a challenge was the pain meds I have to take sometimes, those
Yes.
injections. So usually the hospital charges for them separately, and depending on the dosage or how many times I've taken it a day, the bill keeps piling up and all of that. So I think yes, the financial part has been a bit of a challenge, and I remember very well growing up that was a struggle for my dad because there are sometimes when I have a crisis come on, and then he would like hesitate or try to wait it out and see if
And
I
see if
get
it will
better
pass. Yes.
before we go to the hospital. Sometimes it just be like a day or two, but when he says that it's becoming unbearable, then you're like, okay, yes, this one avoiding it this time. There are several occasions when even myself growing up, like as an adult, I've had to break the bank just to pay hospital bills. So
yes.
Can be crazy sometimes, like real crazy. Like that time I mentioned about having to do a blood transfusion. I can't remember the exact figures, but I know that then I spent close to 200,000. That's as at 3 to 4 years back.
I can show you that's the price of that's the price of blood now. Now blood is like 100K, 120K just for one pint. So you can imagine if you were doing that, if like I'm just saying, imagine if now, like you can imagine how costly and expensive it would be. And I've had people with sickle cell that were transfused with like even 4 pints of blood.
Yeah.
Minimum,
when I had those 2 bars, they did the first one, I wasn't getting any better. Then I had to do the second one to see.
Yeah, so it is really challenging, like financially, actually, because I know a lot of people, and I think that's part of the thing. Aside from the complications that come with it, we will talk about shortly. But I think one of the things that that people actually deal with, or most times that tend to complicate issues that might lead to like maybe cost of death, for example, for some of these patients, is how expensive it is because either they are the ones taking care of themselves, they don't have that support, so they have to take loans, they have to borrow money from different places, they have to sell a lot of things, call family, do so many things just to get the money. Just that mental stress alone makes it worse, and some people just they just give up and be like, you know what, it's not even worth
especially
it.
in this our economy,
Yes,
changing times now.
exactly,
it's just not it at all.
Exactly. So, how has it? Do you think this has it affected you mentally or emotionally, especially when you're having your crisis? How has it? How does it affect you? Does it really affect you? Or you're one of those people that are very strong.
So I won't say I'm strong in that aspect, but one thing that it's very difficult for me to ask for help, especially if it's not something.
I think it's a man. I don't know. I think it's a man thing or a male thing for me for them to actually ask for help.
But generally growing up, I find it difficult to actually open up to people. So even in difficult situations like that, it's maybe very, very close friends that are actually aware of my medical conditions. That
Yeah.
maybe when I call on, they already know, okay, yeah, this is what is happening, and maybe family members and stuff. But um, I usually try as much as possible to manage myself so it doesn't get to that extent. And even at work also, one thing I try to do is, even if I know it's not something that you can always tell everybody, but I do
Yes.
create awareness with my HR to make sure that, yeah,
Yes.
there are some tasks for me when I say, oh yeah, I'm not feeling up to it right now. So you should know that maybe there's something going on, or I feel something coming. Because most of the times when you have a crisis, they are always warning, but there will always be signs before it comes to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, they
So
call them like aura, like there's something you would actually see.
yeah,
Yes.
you will still feel it. It might just
Yeah.
be a mild ache or maybe a chill through your body. Sometimes
Yes.
I feel it sometimes. And once I get that feeling, I just know, okay, yes, it's time to just pause. And then, take time
Take
to
time
let your
to,
body
yes, recuperate.
recuperate and
Yes.
everything. Take a
Yeah.
lot of fluids and all of that. Then if I'm sleeping on my medications, which I just do sometimes, like I forget, and then okay, yes, start taking this consistently.
But you know,
More.
part of that can also be a challenge. Let me explain what I mean. I think I always try to advise people to always, it can be very stressful taking medications every day. Not only we won't want tablet taking it every day, but I think it's important. Why? Because sometimes our body tends to develop something we call resistance. I think that's part of the challenge with, that's where sometimes crisis now becomes difficult to manage. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. If you don't take the medications like regularly, for example, and then when the crisis comes, it becomes difficult to manage. So most times I feel like there's a way maybe we can convert the medication to liquid for some people, like to be sweet. Because yes, it's difficult always swallowing.
Mhm.
That stress of swallowing is a challenge, but I think if you can find a way around it, it will really help a lot with dealing with when the crisis comes, for
Always.
example. It will really help a lot with dealing and managing. I know a lot of people that said, okay, part of time when they had crisis, if they had, the reason why it was not so bad is because they were always taking their routine medications. They tried as much as possible to be regular on it. So another question before we round up, I wanted to ask you is the fact that what would you say to um like people like you that are also dealing with struggling or even having this medical condition? Number one, what would you say to them? And also, if you had the opportunity, something that I would do here, if you had the opportunity to also talk about how best the Nigerian healthcare system can really support people dealing with sickle cell.
Okay, so first, if you are dealing with sickle cell, the one is I recommend you see a specialist because,
Yes.
growing up, there are some routine medications that were prescribed, but once I got to meet a specialist, there are additional medications they actually recommended
Yeah.
that has helped me manage the situation better. At least I don't have crisis frequently again. I think over the past 5 years, maybe number of times I've had crisis, maybe like just twice since I got on those medications. So yeah, seeing a specialist is very important. Then understanding yourself and knowing your limits, because you have to be very, very self-aware and observant
Yes.
so that you know when crises are coming on. And then what I have to say to the government or to the society and about sickness is just sickle cell is to let's just create more awareness. Most people don't even know what causes sickle cell because they think it's like a contagious disease. Some
Yes,
people think that
actually.
actually. So
Mm-hmm.
they need to know that it's not contagious. You are born with it, and it's because of genotype mismatch or yeah, I think I'll call it a genotype mismatch. So some people are not actually aware that A should not marry. I mean, AS should not marry AS, and SS should not marry AS. You understand all of those things. So like, create more awareness on it. And recently, I think I'm not exactly sure how true it is, but I've seen headlines about the Senate or the government creating more policies to enhance awareness and provide healthcare for sickle cell because there are some pages I follow. So I saw that of recent. So I think, yeah, maybe they are trying to take better steps towards managing the
Yeah,
sickle cell.
yes.
thing. So yeah,
I think we just they
that's
just need to
it.
implement it. I don't think it has really been implemented,
Yes,
and
yes.
not
It's
just
still in
implement
talk.
it, but enforce it, because it's one thing to implement in Nigeria, it's another thing to enforce.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you
True.
don't enforce it, some people will
True.
not comply.
True.
Some organizations will not comply. Some hospitals will not even comply. They will tell you since there's no enforcing, there's no consequence to not doing it. They will not even answer you. But yes, I completely agree with you. I think it should be enforced, implemented, and then enforced so that they can be able to provide some sort of subsidized or affordable service for the treatment, since
True.
it's mostly
Affordable is
long
very
term.
important.
Yes, see that word affordable. It
Very
is mostly
important.
long term, so they can be able to provide that for people that have sickle cell or struggling with it. But actually, I think I really want to thank you for joining us today and for sharing your story, and at least showing or sharing more awareness, bringing more light to sickle cell. And thank you for joining me today on our wonderful episode. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope we're able to educate and um really, really bring to light that sickle cell is not just a medical condition, but it's something that anybody can actually survive and live with and
Yeah,
really be healthy
actually.
with. Yes. Thank you so much, Ike. It was nice having
You're
you.
welcome.
All right. See
Thank
you
you.
guys on the next episode. Bye.